I finished my PhD program about a month ago now. So I'm officially a doctor, but I don't know anything medical. I only know how the ocean works. And I haven't quite figured out what my next steps are in life. So I'm in this like in between spot where I'm still wrapping some stuff up from the PhD. I'm also actively working on my epic fantasy book. So this video is really going to capture this phase of my life where I don't really know what's going on, what's coming next, but we're just rolling with the punches and trying to enjoy the day-to-day of things. But before we chat any further, I want to make a cup of tea because this is my first time sitting down today to do some writing. It is early afternoon, the sun is out, and so I'm actually thinking about trying to do some writing outside to capitalize on the good weather. I'm still feeling the pain from the gym workout. I think it was 4 days ago now. Like, this is the third day of recovery, and I'm starting to feel better, but it's been a long time since I've lifted heavy, and I'm feeling it. The sun has also moved, but it's still feeling pretty warm. The balcony is wetter than I remembered it being, so I put Crocs on top of my slippers so my feet can stay warm. I probably should have just worn shoes, but my schedule has been really different day to day recently. I've thought about kind of setting a routine, like maybe doing writing first thing in the morning and then moving on to other things. But honestly, I feel like every day really is so different from the last because even though I finished the PhD, there are some lasting things. Like, for example, I was still part of like this assessment thing that someone's doing about the climate vulnerability of specific species in the Gulf of Alaska. So there was some like workshop stuff with that. And then as well with my dissertation, it's 3 chapters, so 3 scientific papers. And my first 2 have been published, but my third one, I've just gotten a second round of edits from the journal. So this last week, I've really been like focusing in on that and trying to get those edits done. While on top of everything, I have been applying for jobs, and then I've also been trying to write, and then I've also been trying to get back into fitness, and then also just adjusting to being back in Canada because I've been living in Alaska for the last like 5 years. And now I've actually moved into my childhood home while I figure out next steps. So it's been a little bit of an interesting time, like reconnecting with old friends, rediscovering places that have changed since I was here for my undergrad and, throughout my whole childhood. So rather than try and force a routine around everything, it's more about tackling the things in the order that they feel important to me in a way that like reduces my stress levels. Like, for example, with edits that I have to do for this journal, I've been really focused on that because I want to get it to my co-authors so then they can give me edits back before I have to resubmit, I think early March. I do have this underlying feeling of, oh, I am unemployed. My last paycheck was in December and it is now early February, but I have a lot of savings, so I'm not too stressed about getting like the next job as soon as possible, but it is like a lingering thought in the back of my head. I'm trying to just send out a couple of applications a week, and I'm focusing right now on science jobs that utilize my degree. But we'll see as time goes on. I may have to just get a job and be less picky while also making sure that my day has some variety in it. So trying to make sure that I go outside every day, trying to make sure I'm getting activity in. And so last month, actually, I was recording every single day what my activity was, just to see as well the variety of exercise I was getting in, whether it's like running or biking, body weight workouts, that kind of stuff. But right now is when we're really getting into the gym again. That also means I'm just fitting in writing when there is a gap, when I feel like I've gotten enough done with these other things that I'm doing so that I feel a little bit more calm, because I can tackle a lot of different chores, a lot of different activities while having a big to-do list. But often with writing, I need to have this like calmness, this chillness in my brain and reduce outside distractions. And part of outside distractions for me is the idea of like the big to-do list that I still have to get to. So before I get pulled into something else that I have to do today, I'm going to open up my laptop and get to some writing. I haven't been doing a lot of like straight drafting recently because I've been doing a ton of reading. So I feel like when I get to the drafting portion, I feel so much pressure of like writing good prose on the first draft, which is never, it's never going to happen. but I find myself writing a chapter really quick and then having to go back and like fill in stuff. And I've been enjoying that kind of like slower progress. Though last night I realized I set up something and then just completely forgot about it. So I've actually gone back a couple of chapters to work on that. So I think that's where I'm going to start today. I wrote for about 45 minutes before my neglected tea got a little too cold, so I headed back inside. But then I decided to go for a walk because it just felt like such a nice day and I really wanted to go out into the forest and also check out the ducks because there are so many on the pond this year and they're just so fun to watch. And then we used the last of the daylight to start working on some of the household chores because part of the benefit of moving home is that me and my fiance are able to tackle some of like the yard work as well as the interior jobs that just need to get done that haven't. I'm sitting down to do another writing session. It's actually really close to when I want to go to bed. But I've been finding recently that I need to be really careful right before I go to sleep because I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule a little bit, or else I'll stay up late and then sleep in and then kind of throws my whole day off. But I can't doom scroll or read before I go to bed because I'll stay up way too late with either of those two activities. I think it just like feeds my brain and makes me want to just like keep going either of them because it's like low effort amusement. So instead, what I have been doing is pulling out my laptop and getting some writing done. And I never get an impressive amount done anytime that I do this, but it's more of like a natural way to wind my brain down because I'm actively working my brain when I'm writing. And so I feel like it gets tired in a way that it wouldn't while on my phone or reading a book. So if previous experience serves me right, I'm only going to be writing for like 10 or 15 minutes before I call it quits. And even that won't be super productive. But this is my new strategy for going to sleep at a decent hour. We are currently on our way to the gym. My legs have not fully recovered. There's still a little bit of soreness, but we're just gonna go for it anyways and get sore in different ways. But the plan after that is I want to submit a few job applications. That probably means writing a couple of cover letters, but I've written a decent amount at this point that I'm sure I can like tweak those instead of having to start from scratch completely. And then after that, I would like to get some writing done. I also would like to get another thing off the chores list around the house if I can. I'll have to take a look though and see if anything can be done kind of like in an hour or two. And then another thing that I need to do, I haven't done in a while, is send out some more query letters for my thriller book that I wrote and finished last year, which I haven't been so good about sending those out, so it'd probably be good to send out maybe like 5 today. But we'll see how much I get done once I get home from this workout. My workout is complete, but before I sit down and move to doing computer stuff, I need to make a hot drink. I have no idea where the rest of my afternoon went. So I sat down to write my job applications. I got through one and it took me, I think, close to like 2.5 hours just because I was really trying to make sure I was doing the best I could in all the different aspects of the application. Because I have been going for more of like a quality over quantity approach at this point. There's been a lot of competition for science jobs recently, and I'm sure the same is true across many different fields. But if I'm going to be up against like hundreds of applicants, I want to make sure that my application, first and foremost, is really good rather than sending many, many every single day. At least that's what I'm telling myself. And I'm letting myself off the hook for any other job applications today. But I feel really fortunate because I'm not in a position right now where I need to keep forcing and pushing myself, where I got a good application in, and now I can just say, cool, we did what we need to do today. I'm going to use the next half hour to an hour that I have before I have to start thinking about dinner to get some writing done. And I want to make it a cozy session. So I'm going to light a candle, maybe find some like ambiance music. I really want to find some for like a jungle because that's where my characters are traveling through right now. And I did leave off last night in a really exciting scene, so I know exactly what needs to happen next. So there should be no issues in like trying to figure out where to take things, because at least I think for the next like 500 to 1,000 words we should be moving at a good pace. It is now the weekend, and by the weekend, I mean the end of the weekend. So I've not updated you at all in the last couple of days, and that's because I've just been really allowing myself to take it easy on the weekends, whether or not I get as much done during the week as I want, because I feel like I'm the type of person that can very easily go into like over productivity mode. And it's not just because I feel like the need to do work, but it's almost like when I have this long list of things that I have to do, it's in the back of my head and I can't escape that nagging feeling unless I do it. So part of the reason of just like not making myself do anything on the weekends is really to kind of like heal that and let me feel relaxed for a couple of days. So when I come back in on Monday, I'm feeling invigorated, I'm feeling refreshed, because it's all too easy to say, oh, I didn't do these things during the week, therefore I need to do them on the weekend to catch up. But then it's just like this never ending, almost like punishment cycle that I can get into. So instead, I give myself Saturday and Sunday to do whatever I want to do, which means sleeping in, which means laying around in bed if I want, which means reading. And I've actually been reading Lord of the Rings. I haven't read this in a really long time, so it's been really fun to do a bit of a reread. And then once I finish like one of the books, and I know Lord of the Rings is one book, once I finish 1/3 of the book, my plan is to like watch the movie and then go back to the next book and so on. Because I've also been in this nonstop loop of always trying to keep up with releases, keep up with new books. Like there are so many books out there that I'm never going to be able to finish them all. And so for most of my life, I've had this feeling of like I can't revisit books very much because I have so many more things to read. But then it occurred to me like some of these books are really good. And why should I only get to read them once? Especially because I haven't reread The Fellowship of the Ring in an extremely long amount of time. And I've watched the movies. So for me, the like starting point is the movie. So reading the book has been awesome and getting to see like all the other different things that go on. And I just find that Tolkien is so imaginative, so creative. It's actually started to give me more ideas for my book. Not copying from his story, but it's more the sense of like allowing pieces of whimsy, allowing, sparks of other things instead of being so focused on like the character arc or, having to get from place A to place B. These books are a little slow and a little winding, and it's not quite the style I'm going for, but it is a nice little reminder of like you can take a little bit of a breather and kind of explore an area for a little bit. So yesterday on Saturday, actually, I got some writing done and I was feeling really good about it, but I was starting to slow down even though I can literally picture the next conversation scene in my head. Like I know exactly what's going to happen. But for some reason, I decided to stop and then I continued reading. And it was as I was reading that something clicked in my head for the location of where they are. So I have to go back a little bit, a couple of chapters to reintroduce the location. So that'll affect some of the things. And then now that I can like finally see firmly like what's around them, because before I kind of had like a placeholder location that wasn't super interesting. But now I'm like, ooh, I know exactly what it looks like, and it just crystallized a lot more. So I'm really excited to get to do some writing tonight. But it's already kind of late, and I'm feeling really tired today, even though I've been trying to relax this weekend. I can't explain why I've been feeling so tired today. So my plan is to do a little bit more writing until I start to feel tired, and then maybe I'll read a little bit more Lord of the Rings. I know I may stay up too late reading it if I get into too much of a flow, but I think I'm in a kind of like a slow spot right now, so I don't think it'll push me to read too much tonight. So other than Lord of the Rings, my weekend has been filled with just like hanging out, going on some walks, baking. I did some more of like the household chores that we'll have to continue tomorrow. So you might see some of that. But otherwise, yeah, it's just been really nice to take a break. And I am getting back into it and more excited about like applying for jobs and things like that tomorrow. Because instead of this feeling of like, oh, I have to find a job, I have to find a way to make money, I'm getting excited by the prospect of working in, like my field in science, potentially in research, and like what that would look like, because I love field work. I love writing projects, working on projects, reading literature. So, but I don't quite have to wait until I get a job to do that, because as I was explaining at the beginning of this video, right, like your PhD has 3 chapters, and my 3 chapters are written, they're basically done. And that third one I did send out for my co-authors to review, so that's off my plate. But I just got contacted the other day by a grad student that was in my lab when I was up in Alaska, and she's kind of pushing forward a project that I had kind of considered my 4th project, because my strategy when I was doing my PhD, because you have to have 3 scientific papers, 3 chapters, was if one fell through, I didn't want to have to delay my graduation. So there was a 4th project that I took on, and I've analyzed all the samples. I've even done like the data processing for like one type of them, but there's like the second type that this other grad student has more familiarity with. But they actually reached out and were like, when are we going to get around to doing the data analysis for that? Because it's on like some high computing power. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow afternoon to go over how we're going to process that data. So I might have to spend tomorrow morning familiarizing myself with like the coding language around using the like high processing power remote computer we have to use to do the data analysis for that, because it's been so long. So I already know that tomorrow is going to be pretty filled up with that, which means I don't know if I'm going to send out a job application. I don't know if I'm going to send query letters out. I know I'm going to try and get some writing done, and also want to go to the gym again. So it's just so funny how quickly my list can pile up, because theoretically, like, I am not working. I should have all the time in the world. Yet every single day, it feels like things just pile up so quickly. And before I know it, I'm like, I need to take a break. I need to be done with the day. So that's why I do protect my weekends so much. It is just about 3:45 p.m. in the afternoon, so the day's gone by really fast. We started by going to the gym, and that was feeling really good. My body's still a little like off just from recovering from all this exercise, and then just diving right back in again. And then when I came back, I was playing around with some of the coding stuff, but I actually got about like 20 minutes of writing in before the meeting, and I was feeling really good about it actually. Like, I got so much writing done. I don't know the exact words because that's not something that I am tracking right now, but I could just tell like it was just flowing. I was not thinking about the words and writing well. It was just like trying to get everything in my head down on paper, so that felt really good. The meeting also went really well. It went longer than I expected, just because like we're also catching up and sharing what life's been like recently. Something I did want to mention is I know that applying for jobs should be my priority, but I've also really been pushing to try and get my dissertation papers published in some way, just because from my experience and seeing other grad students finish their degrees, it is so easy to just drop things when you're done, to not do those final steps, even though you put in all the work to get so far, just because it's like a lot, to send a paper to a journal, to do edits, to like keep track, especially when you're like applying for jobs and moving on with your life. But for this project in particular, like, I feel like a sense of guilt for not following through with it too, because I got quite a bit of funding from different sources to do this project. And I think I did the math, and I think I spent close to $15,000 on the data analysis for this. So I've analyzed the samples a few different ways, and it costs a lot of money. And it would just feel like such a waste not to do it, especially it seems like the other grad student may consider putting this in their dissertation. So whether or not I have to finish it or they will, I feel confident that it will get finished, which feels good. And I want to, because it's only 3:45, do a job application today. I found one where I just have to write a cover letter, so that should be pretty simple. But before I do that, I think I want to take a little bit of a break, reset my mind, and then to do that, I'm going to go on a walk. It is a little rainy outside, but that should only make it more moody and more magical. So that's the plan. They're coming towards us even though I have no food. Today is actually quite open. I don't have anything until 4 p.m., which means I have many hours to get a lot of stuff done, but also many hours to procrastinate. So that is why I'm going to start my morning by writing a to-do list because there's a lot of like little things I need to get done. So I figure by being able to tick them off as I go, I can kind of like build momentum and keep myself on track. For the next like 5 minutes, my plan is to do that as well as finish my tea. And then after that, we'll get to job applications. We'll potentially send out some query letters for my thriller book. We'll work on the research project I was talking about yesterday because there's a couple things that I need to do before I chat with that student again. And yeah, hopefully through it all, get some writing done as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this sneak peek into what my days have looked like recently. There's been a lot of like uncertainty and it's been a little tough, but I keep plugging away, getting things done every day at whatever speed feels good. I'll see you in the next video.